Get ready with me while I talk about comprehension versus reading and seeing that in the book space. And just to preface, these are my thoughts. This is just like my opinion. These are like what I've noticed and seen within like the book space. So like I could definitely be wrong, but like I said, these are just my observations. So I'm just trying to open up a discussion, a conversation to have. So just be kind to each other and be kind in the comments. Alright, so who's ready to go to hell with me to find the professor that I might have accidentally blown up and a spell gone wrong? This has to be the book of the year, the most anticipated book of the year. All the cool kids are reading Art of Quan. Your favorite author's favorite author is back, baby, and she came out with Katabasis. All my scholars out there, you would know Katabasis means descent into hell or a journey into hell. The story follows our two main characters, academic rivals Peter and Alice, who go into hell to find the professor that Alice had accidentally blew up. They're looking for their professor so he can write some references for them so they can get some really good, high-paying jobs after their miserable long years at their school. You don't just read this book, you experience it, you survive it. It's intense, it's smart, and it's a kind of story that stays in your head well after you flip the last page. When I finished this book, my mind was all over the place. It felt like I was just in a library stuck full of references. And I'm talking about like classical literature references. I'm talking mythological references, okay? We had Dante's Inferno, Alice in Wonderland, the Odyssey, the Iliad, the Aeneid, the Epic of Gilgamesh. If you love the high intensity that was in Poppy Wars, you are going to enjoy Art of Kwang. If you love the prose that was in Babel, you are going to have a field trip with Katabasis. If you loved the wit and some of the humor that was in Yellowface, you're definitely going to enjoy Katabasis. This is the kind of book that's going to keep you thinking, rereading, and texting your friend at like 2 in the morning and being like, girl, what just happened? I'm just a messenger, but from what I heard, all the cool kids are reading Katabasis by Art of Kwang, okay? If you want to spiral into the 9 layers of hell with these two academic rivals, be my guest. And not to be that one person, but I do buzz off of sprayed edges, and I am obsessed with the depiction of the descent into hell. I think this is just incredibly stunning, so beautiful, and I can't wait for you guys to get your hands on your very own deluxe edition of Katabasis. Before I start reading a book, I always ask myself questions of, am I comprehending what I'm reading, or I'm just reading to read? I don't necessarily think that you have to comprehend every single book that you read, in my opinion. I think like you can just read to read, and I do that too. I do that all the time. But there are certain books that I do consume that I do try to comprehend and understand what it is I'm reading and what I am consuming. You know me and my love for definition, so what is reading by definition? Reading is the action or skill of reading written or printed matter silently or aloud. And comprehend by Oxford definition means to grasp mentally or understand. Like I said, I feel like sometimes we conflate the two and like mix those two up when like they're definitely not the same thing. Like anybody could fly through a 100-page book, but can anyone really understand those 100 pages? That I mean like how much of you are retaining it or analyzing it and like understanding it to its full depth. Like you have skimming plot points versus understanding the themes, the subtext, and the character motivations. Like sometimes I like to ask myself, am I just reading it? Like, or is my eyeballs just kind of like over the pages? I don't know, I feel like this conversation really matters to me because sometimes I feel like book culture often values speed and quantity over depth and understanding. And yeah, like you can read fast, but you know, at the end of the day, if you can't tell me what the book was actually about beneath the plot, did you really comprehend it? I think that's partially why I no longer make a lot of like TBR wrap-up videos. One, okay, to be honest, one is because I'm lazy as fuck. And 2 is because I kind of don't want to overwhelm a lot of my viewers with being like, this is what it takes to be a book creator, like a book content creator. Like I have to be reading all these books. First of all, you are a book content creator and a reader if you just read 1 book a month or 1 book a year. It does not matter. Personally, for me, I want to, you know, set my own expectations and like actually enjoy what I'm reading, because I used to feel like I just need to read and push content out, and I was like slowly starting to hate reading. Like comprehension improves critical thinking, I will say that, and empathy, I will also say that. And even if your writing skills as a writer, I've noticed that like recently my writing has gone a lot better due to just like actually taking my time reading certain books. I also think comprehension forces you to like sit with the discomfort of certain books and confusing moments of certain books instead of just glossing over them. So for example, like when I read Octavia Butler or Toni Morrison, Those books obviously make me slightly uncomfortable, and like I just sit there and be like, okay, why does it make me uncomfortable? And like I will find out why it makes me uncomfortable. And then like being able to come to terms with those feelings is like a massive reward. A couple signs that I noticed that I was comprehending a book versus just reading a book was when, like, at the bookstore, right, I'm a bookseller, I'm able to talk about a book in depth without looking up the synopsis or like having to come up with the script. Able to explain like why characters made certain choices, not just what they did. I was able to like notice reoccurring symbols, metaphors, or parallels to real life issues. I'm able to question and critique the book while also reading instead of just passively consuming it. I think that I was able to like actually hand sell a book without just spewing tropes at them. Sometimes social media kind of pressures me into like feel like I need to read more to be considered taken seriously versus like, comprehending what I'm reading. Conditioned to consume content quickly, like scrolling TikTok, doom scrolling Instagram. So I feel like we sometimes bring that habit into reading. Like I said, I feel like there is this fear of mine where I'm not considered, well read or taken seriously as a book content creator because I've only read a certain amount of books in a month, because I'm trying to take my time with what I'm reading and how much I am reading. So how can one improve, their comprehension while reading? For me, I started slowing down and reading fewer books. This is where I started like annotating and highlighting and keeping like a reading journal. I started pausing and reflecting on every chapter that I read. When I read to my students after every chapter, I always sit with them and I ask them, what did you remember from this book? What did the characters do? How did it make you feel? What are some thoughts, that you take away with? And like just starting to like engaging with them. And it's also like, because that's how I engage with myself when I'm reading certain books, even books that you think that you don't need to comprehend or engage with. In all honesty, we do that. Like, that's why I love Book Talk so much, is because all of us, whether we're making content or we're just viewing content, we are comprehending certain books together. And that's why like we talk about books. And that's why I think it's so important that when we are talking about books, we're not just talking about like the tropes and that's it. I think we should go into a deeper dive into these books and how they made us feel and how they could potentially make you feel. If you're having problem understanding certain passages and what they mean, reread them. I do that all the time. Don't be afraid to look up certain words or context if there's like a passage in a book that just isn't hitting you right or you're just not understanding it correctly. Anyways, these are my thoughts. What do you guys think?